we are going to look at the influence of wives over their husband. That is what we want to take in this Bible study. You will agree that influence could be positive and it can also be what? Negative. What do we mean by that? You can influence somebody to do something that is right in the sight of God. We can also influence another person to do something that is wrong in the sight of God. Have you not been so? Now, what is the meaning of this word influence? What does it mean? So for us to have a clear understanding of what this thing means, let us look at the Bible. We'll take an example from the Bible that will make it very clear to us. So let's open to Judges chapter 16.
Genesis 16.
Judges chapter 16.
Okay.
We'll read verses 16 and 17.
Verse 16. And it came to pass, when she pressed him daily with her words, and urged him, so that his soul was vexed unto death, that he told her all his heart, and said unto her, There hath not come a razor upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite unto God from my mother's womb. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I shall be weak, and be like any other man.
Now, from this passage that we have just read, what is that thing that Delilah used on Samson? What is that thing? Yes, we know that she influenced Samson, but there is something the Bible recorded here in that verse 16 that we read. It says she pressed him what? Daily. She used strong persuasion, working on the husband's mind. And Samson never knew when he revealed the secret of his life. So from this example in the Bible, to influence means a strong persuasion. That is, to persuade, to exercise authority, and to manipulate the mind of someone. I repeat, to influence, it means to persuade, to press, just like Delilah did. To exercise authority, and also to manipulate the mind of someone. We are looking at the influence of wives over their husband. And so if we want to look at it within the marriage context, we go say influence means that strong persuasion or the manipulation that the wife will put on the husband just to change his actions and behaviors. It could also be to exercise authority over the husband. But one thing we must know is that influence could be positive and also it could be what? Negative. So in this Bible study, we are going to look at some women in the Bible that influence their husband positively, and we'll also look at those that influence their husbands negatively. And we shall learn lessons from what we are going to look at. First, let's look at some women in the Bible that influenced their husbands positively. The first, we shall read Matthew 27. Matthew 27.
Matthew 27.
We shall read verse 19, 23, to 25.
When he was set down on the judgment seat, his wife sent unto him, saying, Have thou nothing to do with that just man? Have thou nothing to do with that just man? For I have suffered many things this day in a dream because of him.
Verse 23.
3. And the governor said, Why? What evil hast thou done? But they cried out the more, saying, Let him be crucified.
24 and 25.
When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, but that rather a tumult was made, he took water and washed his hand before the multitude, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just person. See ye to it. Then answered all the people and said, His blood be on us and on our children.
Now, Pilate was faced with a major task. They brought Jesus before him for judgment. And before Pilate could say anything, the wife sent a message to him and said, My husband, please, this man is a just man. Beware the way you handle this matter. And that message changed the orientation of Pilate. Have you not been so? Now, if Pilate had not received that message, he would have not told the people that the blood of Jesus is not upon him. He washed his hand. The wife saved Pilate from a very terrible and dangerous sin. Look at Genesis chapter 9, verse 6, to see what the wife of Pilate saved him from.
Genesis 9, verse 6. Whoso shedded man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of God he made man.
We are interested in whoso shed what? Blood. Waiting Bible talk. He said his own blood shall be what? Shed. That is what the wife delivered him from. You could see how the wife was able to influence him positively. Then for him to do that in the presence of the people, what did he do? He washed his hand and said, My hand not due. This man, this just man, his blood cannot be upon my head. And what did the people say? He said his blood should be upon their head. Is that not what they said? And if they even said upon their what? Their children. Who saved Pilate from that curse? Is it not the wife? And so, wives, whether our husband listen or not, give them the right counsel. And husbands, what is the lesson we should learn here? Listen to your what? Your wife. If Pilate have not listened to that instruction sent to him by his wife, do you think he would have taken that decision? He would have not. That is the lesson we need to learn from there. Husband, listen to your wife. Wife, give your husband the right counsel. And as we can see there, it was God himself that revealed it to that woman. Was it not God? And so, women, wives, before we go and counsel our husband, let us go to God in prayers. And God will tell us. God will put the right thing in our mouth. And there will be peace in the home. We shall take another example. In 1 Samuel 25, it's a very long passage. 1 Samuel 25. We might not be able to read all, but we will just be taking one or two verses. 1 Samuel 25. Start from verse 9.
1 Samuel 25, verse 9. And when David's young men came, they spake to Nabal according to all those words in the name of David, and ceased. And Nabal answered David's servants and said, Who is David? And who is the son of Jesse? There be many servants nowadays that speak away every man from his master. Shall I then take my bread and my water and my flesh that I have killed for my sharer, and give it unto men whom I know not whence they be? So David's young men turned their way and went again, and came and told him all those sayings.
Verse 13.
And David said unto his men, Gird ye on every man his sword. And they girded on every man his sword. And David also girded on his sword. And they went up after David 400 men, and 200 abode by the stuff. But one of the young men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, saying, Behold, David sent messengers out of the wilderness to salute our master, and he railed on them. But the men were very good unto us, and we were not hurt, neither missed we anything, so long as we were conversant with them. When we were in the field, they were all war unto us, both by night and day. All the while we were with them keeping the sheep. Now, therefore, know and consider what thou wilt do, for evil is determined against our master and against all his household. For he is such a son of Belial that a man cannot speak to him. Then Abigail made haste and took 200 loaves and 2 bottles of wine and 5 sheep ready dressed and 5 measures of parched corn and 100 clusters of raisins and 200 cakes of figs, and laid them on asses. And he said unto her servant, Go on before me, behold, I come after you.
Read verse 23.
Verse 23. And when Abigail saw David, she hasted and lighted off the ass, and fell before David on her face, and bowed herself to the ground, and fell at his feet, and said, Upon me, my Lord, upon me, let this iniquity be. And let thy handmaid, I pray thee, speak in thy audience, and hear the words of thy handmaid. Let not my Lord, I pray thee, regard this man of Belial, even Nabal. For as his name is, so is he. So is he. Nabal is his name, and folly is with him. But I, the handmaid, saw not the young men of my Lord, whom thou hast sent. Now therefore, my Lord, as the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, seeing the Lord had withholden thee from coming to shed blood, and from avenging thy servant with thy own hand, now let thy enemies and they that seek evil to my Lord be as Nabal.
Verse 35.
Verse 35. So David received of her hand that which she had brought him, and said unto her, Go up in peace to thy house. See, I have hearkened to thy voice, and I have accepted thy person. And Abigail came to Nabal, and behold, he had a feast in his house, like the feast of a king. And Nabal's heart was merry within him, and he was very drunken. Wherefore she told him nothing, less or more, until the morning light. But it came to pass in the morning, when the wine was gone out of Nabal, and his wife had told him these things, that his heart died within him, and he became as a stone. And it came to pass about 10 days after that the Lord smote Nabal that he died.
Thank you. Now, this is the story of Abigail, David, and Nabal. As we read in that passage, the servants of David, they were very good to the servant of Nabal. They even formed walls of protection around them. And so they required something from Nabal. If you read that passage, you will see the insultive words that Nabal used on David. And when David heard, David prepared and said, anyone that pisseth against the wall shall not see tomorrow. What that mean? He was going to kill both old and what? And young. But one of the servants, let's read verse 17.
1 Samuel 25, verse 17.
Yes.
Now therefore know, and consider what thou wilt do. For evil is determined against our master, and against all his household, for he is such a son of Belial, that a man cannot speak to him.
Can you see the character of Nabal there? He said no one can do what? Speak to him. So he was stubborn, rude, and stingy. That was the character of Nabal. But the question we'll ask ourselves is, how was Abigail able to dwell with him? Is that not a good question? Write the answer down. In the interactive session, we shall answer it. Look at the character. You know, some women will say, my husband, not so this, not so that. This character of Nabal, your own was rich like this. Now, let us also look at the character of Abigail. Fire already. And she moved to quench that fire. The servant told her, look at what my Oga did, oh. Wahala don't come, oh. If it's from some women, where will they go? What will they do? They will go home. And a quarrel will ensue. You not see yourself? You know they change. You see, and what do they do for me? Do to me for us. You don't go do it outside. Would that have saved the situation? But Abigail went quietly to go and meet David. She never told the husband. And pleaded with David. Say, now so my husband be. Now I know him. I beg you. Who be this husband? Who be where you want to come begin on the fight? With her words, she was able to pacify what? David. And so we can say that Abigail is a virtuous woman. And Bible talks, say, virtuous woman. Say then they do what? Then they build their house. But who they put their houses down? The foolish. They don't go think before they talk. They will never ask God, what will I do? Immediately, fire. Fire for fire. Will the house be in peace? No. So let's emulate that character of Abigail. And even when David has agreed, it was after that she now went home. When she got home, she saw the state that the husband was. The Bible said the husband was what? Drunken. Abigail never mentioned anything. But if now let's tell ourselves the truth. We go keep quiet. So you see, you don't commit wonders. Now I don't go beg David, may not come beat you. You see yourself now, you don't drink. I don't fair the talk and say, I don't be human being. I don't get husband. Is that not what we will say? Say, you see your life. But she kept quiet and waited till the following morning. When Nabal was now normal. And he now said, my husband, we are here waiting happened yesterday. But I don't go make peace with David. As the man heard that one, waiting happen, he had failed him. Now, I wish Abigail had confronted Nabal that night, that evening, and maybe a fight ensue, and Nabal die. Who killed Nabal? Let us learn a lesson from there. And so, her influence was what? Positive. To avoid bloodshed. And to also prevent David from shedding innocent blood. David would have not killed only Nabal now. He would have killed everybody, including Abigail. But God used her to save David, to save her husband and the entire household. Men, women, let us learn a lesson from here. No matter who your husband is, learn to accommodate. I don't think there's any husband that is worse than Nabal. Anyway, any husband that is behaving like this, they belong to that lineage of Nabal. They have so many characteristics. God just only showed us for us to know that you can dwell in peace, even if your husband is the type that is somehow. The husband can also dwell in peace with a wife that is nagging. Let's learn that lesson. So, let us look at the third example of women in the Bible that influenced their husband positively. Another example is Eve, the wife of Abraham. In Genesis 21, Sarah, the wife of Abraham. In Genesis 21, 9 to 12.
Genesis 21, verse 9 to 12. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, which she had borne unto Abraham, mocking. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. And the thing was grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. And God said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of thy bondwoman. In all that Sarah has said unto thee, hearken unto her voice, for in shall thy seed be called. And
I said verse 12. Okay. Now, this is another example. There was crisis in Abraham's house between Madam and the maid, and the son of the maid versus the son of Madam. But remember, we were told the first day, Sarah, the Madam, was the one who brought her maid to Abraham. And I remember vividly, our mother-in-law said it, the maid now can't measure shoulder with waiting with Madam. That one at the first quarter. But when Isaac came, it was not only the maid now, like mama, like son, the pikin Jonah. They were now mocking Isaac. And Sarah was no longer happy. Though now she caused the wahala, but she was not happy. And told the husband, please, I make mistake. The one where we dey wait for, it don't come. This surrogate, the artificial, the counterfeit, I think today go be the last day for this house. The Bible said Abraham was what? Grieve. Let me get the two now. I go to manage you now. But God told him, listen to your wife. Obey your wife. How many men in that situation will go and seek the face of God? How many we go? We want to take decision by ourselves. My own pikin, not be me born, even if not be you born for me, not be me born. After all, you not still get. Why you go to drive them away? But have you asked God? Do you know the mind of God? You fail to realize that God could speak through your wife. In this instance, who was speaking through Sarah? Was it not God? It was God. But when Abraham went and God told him, obey your wife. In this instance, do what? Obey your wife. And you see this devil. When the counterfeit they come, Abraham go ask God. He no ask. But when the real one come now, he has learned his lessons. And he went and asked God. And God told him, send them away. This counterfeit, I not get anything with them. This Isaac, now my promise day. Even though you strayed away, you have come back, my program will continue. Most program of God in people's life, they are truncated because of the decision they take. without asking God. And so, in this wise, the influence of Sarah, was it positive or negative? Positive. And it yielded what? A positive result. If Ishmael had remained in that house, only God knows. Maybe himself and his mother would have conspired and killed Isaac. Program of God will never stop. So let us learn a lesson from here. To always add God. Husband, if your wife gives you counsel, ask God. Wife, before you give your husband counsel, ask God. If God is in it, will there be confusion? There will be no confusion. The reason why there are crises in the home, the husband has not submitted to the will of God. What do I mean by that? He just do things on his own. He will not go back to God to go and ask the man of God concerning that situation. And if he go take that decision, will he be well? Then how do you expect your wife to submit to you? If you are not submitting to the head, will your wife submit? This life is a symbiotic relationship. You obey me, I obey you. Who they control the wife? Not be God go control him. God go harden the heart. Go make life unbearable for you. So let's learn this lesson. To always take everything to God in prayers. So that our homes will be in peace. Now, we have taken these 3 examples. Let us also look at the Bible. So women that influenced their husband negatively. Their influence, now trouble, now wahala, now it bring. First on the list, we shall look at Genesis 3 verse 6. Verse 6.
Verse 6. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also to her husband with her, and he did eat.
Now, this influence of Eve, was it a positive or negative? Negative. What will be the result of this disobedience where Eve make Adam to do so? Not being led to the fall of man today. All the suffer where they suffer today, not being led to lead to ram. That is an example of what? A negative influence. Like we said earlier on, each of them get their consequences. If it is positive, the result will be what? Positive. If it is negative, the result will be negative. So we see in this case, this idea where Eve said to the husband, it make the husband can't disobey the commandment of God. Wives, are you making your husband to disobey the commandment of God? There is always a consequence. And the husband, you know what? The husband will turn back and fight you. How? Waiting Adam tell God, who he accused? He said, God, not be the wife where you give me. God do bad when he give Adam a wife. So if you are the type that is making your husband to disobey the commandment of God, someday the man will turn around and he will face you. Let's learn that lesson. If the man, now you they disobey, make your wife to disobey the commandment of God, someday your wife will face you that you're not even fit to sleep that house. That is the issue. So Eve turned the heart of her husband into lust. Because she herself lusted after that fruit and sold the idea to the husband. And today, man is the one that is suffering it. So this strong negative influence of Eve on Adam led to the fall of the human race. That is a negative consequence. Let's also look at another woman in the Bible, Sarah again. You know the first one, we said she influenced Abraham positively. But she also influenced Abraham negatively. Let's look at Genesis 16, verses 1 to 6.
Genesis 16, verses 1 to 6. And now, Sarai, Abraham's wife, bare him no children, as she had an handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarah said unto Abram, Behold now, the Lord has restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarah, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarah said unto Abram, My wrong be upon thee. I have given my maid unto thy bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. The Lord judged between me and thee. But Abram said unto Sarah, Behold, thy maid is in thy hand. Do to her as it pleaseth thee. And when Sarah dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face.
Thank you. This is the story of how Ishmael was born. After so many years, no child. Abraham was not troubled, but the wife. There you could see the anxiety. I never get picking where I go call my own. What should I do? She now made a suggestion to the husband, Abraham. Say, my husband, see, this is my maid. Now I don't have any children. Let her, go into her. Let her bring forth children that I can call my own. Let's ask ourselves this question. That child that the maid gave birth to, does he actually belong to Sarah? Pikin don't know him, mama. He know him, mama. No matter how you go polish him, he know him, mama. And the time will come, that child will look for the mother. Have you not been so? And when the mistress became pregnant, when they measure shoulder with who? The madam, Sarah. And Sarah, who brought the idea, not to face Abraham, said, God go judge between me and you. As at the time she brought the suggestion, did he consulted with God? No. It was a foolish idea. And now she's telling the husband, God go judge between me and you. Which judgment God want judge? The judgment of God don't already come. I give you your request and send what? Leanness unto the soul. The leanness never come. Then Abraham replied to him, now you cause this whole wala. Now you know how you go to remove her. The maid take your hand. Anything where you want to do to them. But the harm has been done. Is it not? Ishmael today. Not be then they wala the whole nation. The child of what? The bondwoman. Now then, today, throughout the whole world, they are the one causing trouble because of the foolishness of one woman and one man. You know, at times, when we don't have patience to wait, and we cut corners, the end result will be Ishmael. And waiting be Ishmael, now trouble, wahala. So that was how Sarah influenced Abraham negatively. But God has already assured. He told them, I will give you a son in due season. God has an appointed time. And once that appointed time comes, will he not do it? He will do it. I think our problem is just anxiety, nervousness, and unbelief, faithlessness. If Abraham had waited, Isaac would have come. But rather than he waiting, he yielded to the wife's suggestion. And there was trouble all over the nation. Like we were told, the first day on that childbearing, When you go out to use the traditional means to get a child, you will get Ishmael, we're told. So, a wife can influence the husband negatively. And you know what? Most times, it is the devil that would take that undue advantage of the strong influence of the woman over the man, just to seduce their husbands to do things that are not right in the sight of God. That thing Abraham did, was it right in the sight of God? It was not. It was the devil that seduced her. Why? Because God himself, who created woman, said they are weaker word vessels. And so the man, as a man, we must walk with our wives with understanding that they are weaker vessels. And because they are weaker vessels, the devil can capitalize on that and can use them anytime. That is why the husband must pray for his wife continuously without ceasing, so that the devil will not take undue advantage. That is a lesson we must learn from Eve, influence over Abraham. Another woman in the Bible is Jezebel, the madam of all wickedness. She had a negative influence over her husband, Ahab. Let's look at 1 Kings. Chapter 21.
Kings 21.
Read verse 20 first.
Verse 20. And they slew everyone his man, and the Syrians fled, and Israel pursued them. And Ben-Hadad, the king of Syria, escaped.
Is that verse 20?
Sorry, sir. I'm reading. 1 Kings 21, verse 20. And Ahab said to Elijah, Hast thou found me, O my enemy? And he answered, I have found thee, because thou hast sold thyself to work evil in the sight of the Lord.
Continue.
Verse 22. Verse 21. Behold, I will bring evil upon thee, and will take away thy posterity, and will cut off from Ahab him that pisseth against the wall, and him that shutteth up and left in Israel, and will make thy house like the house of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha, the son of Ahijah, and for the provocation wherewith thou hast provoked me to anger, and made Israel to sin. And of Jezebel also speak the Lord, saying, The dogs shall eat Jezebel by the wall of Jezreel. Him that died of Ahab in the city of...
25, please.
Verse 25. But there was none like unto Ahab, which did sell himself to work wickedness in the sight of the Lord, whom Jezebel his wife stirred up.
In this passage, who stirred up Ahab to do wickedness? Jezebel, his wife. Is it not? Now, all the wickedness that Ahab did, they were orchestrated by the wife Jezebel, who the Bible called a witch. The Bible recorded that all the kings of Israel, Ahab was the one that provoked God to anger more than any other one. Why? It was because of the negative influence of his wife Jezebel. Ahab could no longer stand as a man in the house. He relinquished that authority to the wife. That was why any little thing, he could run to the wife. When Elijah had an encounter with him, he went home and told the wife. When you get home, you can read it. 1 Kings 21, 6 to 7, 27 to 29. Write it down. Then 1 Kings 19, 1 to 2, 21, 1 Kings 21, then read 5 to 15. In actual fact, just read the whole of that, chapter 19 and chapter 21. You will see the story there. Ahab ran to the wife. See what Elijah do. See what he just do. The wife, Bagbati. Say, Elijah, now me and you. When Ahab was to take another person's land, Naboth said, "No, this is my only inheritance." Ahab not talk to Ramo, he went home. When Ahab reached house, he just enter. His facial expression means say word day. Now the wife said, "What did they worry you? Why you excuse your face for this house?" Say, "Na Naboth. Now ordinary land I say make he give me, say no they give me." Now the wife said, "Now you go eat. Leave the matter for me." His countenance can't change. The wife only came back to give situation report. Say, "My husband, go take that land. Those people where they drag on with you, they are no longer alive." Some men are like that. The authority for their house, they don't give unto their wives. You go hear man, when he need to take action, no go take. The children don't them misbehave. Say, "Okay, no worry. When your mama come today, you go see fire." Where you dey, you no get the fire? Some go boldly tell you, now me you they talk to. You know, say my wife na bagbati. I go tell her when I reach house. And actually, when he tell the wife go tie double wrapper. She won't go fight. The man don't relinquish the authority now. The woman don't become the boss in the house. So he can tell the husband now, say, "Sit down there." And what he go do? He go obey. Because he don't hand over the authority to the woman. Now so Ahab hand over himself and authority to Jezebel. And Jezebel can't control him. And not only control him, he can begin to influence him to do things that ordinary were not right in the sight of God. So Ahab could not stand as the head of his own, but he gave out the authority that God gave to him to his wife. So hence, he will always rely on her for help, as in those two examples that we cited. So like we said, some women have become bows in their homes. Some beat up their husbands. And they will always threaten them. "Not provoke me, oh. If I take you now and I grant you there. So I just respect you. Not provoke, not push me more than this. Oh. You know me." What did the husband go do? And the husband actually knows say go do it. He not go keep quiet. Go say, "I not mean now, not be so I see her. I be just they play with you. Now everything you divest for. You for still listen to me now. And say, okay, the plate they go wash up. As a sign, say, "I not verse for you again." Is that life? And such women will never obey their husbands. Do you think Jezebel will obey Ahab? Never. If the husband said, "Don't go to this place," now that place she won't go because she have taken over the home. These people like this, are they different from Jezebel in their actions? They are not. And so, there will continue to be crisis in such home because the authority in that home has been usurped. May God help us. Another woman in the Bible is found in Esther chapter 5, 13 and 14. Mind you, we are looking at women who influenced their husband negatively. Esther chapter 5, we'll read verses 13 and 14.
Esther 5, verse 13. Yet all this availeth me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai, the Jew, sitting at the king's gate. Then said Zeresh his wife, and all his friends unto him, Let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king of that Mordecai may be hanged thereon. Then go thou in merrily with the king unto the banquet. And the things pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made.
Chapter 6, verse 13. Let's see the result.
Chapter 6, verse 13. And Haman told Zeresh his wife and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh his wife unto him, If Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shalt surely fall before him. And while they were yet speaking with him, came the king.
I said verse 13, please. Now, this is another woman in the Bible, Zeresh by name. She was the wife of Haman. The husband came home and was plotting against a child of God, Mordecai. He told the wife and some of his friends. And the Bible recorded that the wives and the friends, they were the one who suggested how Mordecai would be killed. He said, prepare a gallows. And he obeyed. But if you look at verse 13, if this was the counsel that the wife gave to him before, do you think Mordecai would have gone there? Or Haman would have gone to prepare the gallows? When he has failed, then the wife is now reminding him, don't you know that there's nothing you can do about this, against this child of God? But at that initial time, if the wife had said, don't harm that man, leave him alone. And Haman was only jealous, is it not? Mordecai never did anything to him. So what she would have done is to counsel him not to do anything. But the wife said, prepare a gallows, let them hang him there. So in this wise, Zeresh has influenced the husband negatively. On the long run, who was hung on that gallows? Was it not Haman? Let us learn a lesson from there. What about the wife of Job? In Job chapter 2, verse 9. What did she do?
Job chapter 2, verse 9. Then said his wife unto him, Dost thou still retain thy integrity? Curse God and die.
This is the wife of Job. Job was afflicted. And Job was still maintaining his integrity. He never sinned against his God. But the wife came and said, Job, which kind of life you see they live? Who died not better pass you? Curse God. Make you just die the death. You see girl life? Like some women will tell your husband. You see girl life? You never die. Just go die. You will not if he provide for house. Who die not better pass you? It was the same thing that Job's wife said. And thank God for Job, who knew that he has to maintain his integrity. He never yielded to the suggestion of Job of his wife. And so, women like Job's wife, their cancer usually bring about death because they have given up the truth. And any woman that has given up the truth, they are spiritually dead. So any cancer where they cancer you, now dead, they follow him. Was that not the case of Zeresh, Hannah's wife? Have you not been, we read just now, waiting follow him up, now dead. What can we say of Zipporah, Moses' wife, who almost made Moses to disobey God's commandment of circumcision? When you get home, read it. Exodus 4, 24 to 26. That God almost took the life of Moses. It was when it was not obvious to her that, Moses wants to die, before she quickly took up a sharp object and circumcised the son. Why must she now wait until the anger of God was kindled against the husband before she would do the needful? So that was also a negative influence. With that, the program that God was running in the life of Moses would have been truncated. The last woman we are going to look in the Bible today is Delilah, Samson's wife. Judges chapter 16.
Judges 16.
We read from verse 6 to 19.
Verse 6. And Delilah said to Samson, "Tell me, I pray thee, wherein thy great strength lieth, and where would thou mightest be bound to afflict thee?" And Samson said unto her, "If they bound me with 7 green wheats that were never dried, then shall I be weak, and be as another man." Then the Lord of the Philistines brought up to her 7 green wheats which had not been dried, and she bound them with them. She bound him with them. Now there were men lying in wait, abiding with her in the chamber. And she said unto him, the Philistine, "Be upon thee, Samson." And he brake the wheats as a thread to Thor is broken when touched the fire. So his strength was not known. And Delilah said unto Samson, "Behold, thou hast mocked me, and told me lies. Now tell me, I pray thee, wherewith thou mightest be bound." And he said unto her, "If they bound me fast with new ropes that never were occupied, then shall I be weak, and be as another man." Delilah therefore took new ropes, and bound him therewith, and said unto him, "The Philistines be upon thee, Samson." And there were lies in wait, abiding in the chamber. And he brake them from off his arms like a thread. And Delilah said unto Samson, "Thither thou hast mocked me, and told me lies. Tell me, therewith thou mightest be bound." And he said unto her, "If thou weavest the 7 locks of my head with the web." And she fastened it with the pin, and said unto him, "The Philistine be upon thee, Samson." And he awaked out of his sleep, and went away with the pin of the beam, and with the web. And she said unto him, "How canst thou say, I love thee, when thy heart is not with me? Thou hast mocked me these 3 times, and hast not told me wherein thy great strength lieth." And it came to pass, when she pressed him daily with his words, and urged him, so that his soul was vexed unto death, that he told her all his heart, and said unto her, "There had not come a razor upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite unto God from my mother's womb. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I shall become weak, and be like any other man."
Thank you. This is the story of Delilah and Samson. Samson, a mighty man of God. In his time, he was a judge, which is equivalent to a king. He was to rule Israel. But can you see what Delilah did to him? She made him to stop his God-given assignment. Her influence on Samson made him to tell her the source of his power, eventually making God to depart from him. As soon as he opened his mouth to tell her the source of his power, God departed from him. And if you read that account, you could see people, many were hissing, some were shaking their head. They are feeling the pain. We are feeling the pain as we are reading it. What Delilah did to Samson. That is a wife doing to what? The husband. She sold her husband out. And so, as a result of this influence, Samson's 2 eyes were removed. He became a grinder of corn in the prison yard of his enemy. Did God ever created Samson to become a grinder in the prison? No. He was to do God's assignment here on earth. Is it not? But the influence of his wife made that program to be truncated. It took the grace of God, heavenly intervention, for Samson to have repented. But the deed has been done. Is it not? God never made Samson to die or perish with the Philistines. But he got to a time in his life, he opted for it and said, God, take my life. Now I'll die with these Philistines. He said, only one thing I need from you, God, strengthen me, give me the power. And the Bible says, ask and you shall what? Receive. And God gave him the power. He pulled down the whole temple, the whole house. And the Bible recorded that the people that died with him were more than those he killed. But the point is this: did God ever make that promise to him that he would die with his enemy? No. Why did he not die with his enemy? The influence of his wife. Now, look at verse 4 of that Judges 16. Chapter 16.
Judges 16 verse 4. And it came to pass afterward that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah.
God say, husband, love your wife. Is it not? Samson loved Delilah. But was Delilah submissive? No. Because she was strangely spirited. So women who are not submissive to their husband, or who have refused to allow their desire to be their husbands, are they different from Delilah? It's a question you need to answer. I need to answer. Therefore, every woman must help their husband to fulfill their God-given assignment, and also to live in obedience to the word of God. They should be a pillar of support to their husband and not to pull them away from their God-given assignment like Delilah did to Samson. Let us encourage our wives. Let our wives encourage their husbands. No matter the assignment that your husband is doing in the house of God, encourage him to be faithful. Encourage him to do it as unto God and not unto man. That thing you will say in your secret, one word could turn the table upside down. Look at the words that Delilah used that broke Samson's heart. Read verse 15, please.
Judges 16, verse 15. And she said unto him, How canst thou say, I love thee, when thy heart is not with me? Thou hast mocked me these 3 times, and hast not told me wherewith thy great strength lieth.
16.
And it came to pass, when she pressed him daily with her words, and urged him, so that his soul was vexed unto death.
Can you see the weapon that this woman used there? Touching words. You know, the Bible just recorded this. But you and I know that it goes beyond this. And before she's saying this, you should be weeping. You know, women cry, you know, they can easily cry. Most times they are emotional. Crying night and day. And what now happened? The man, out of emotionality, yielded up and revealed the secret of his life. And Samson now became a prey. He became ordinary thing. Now, even when she called the lords of the Philistines to come and shave her hair, let's see what she did to Samson. Verse 19.
Judges 16, verse 19. And she made him sleep upon her knees, and she called for a man, and she caused him to shave off the 7 locks of his head, and she began to afflict him, and his strength went from him.
Any man will lie down for Delilah lap, he go feel wake up for heaven. Man, wahala dey o. But God will help us. This is one's wife treating the husband like this. But there is a way out. So that is why godly husband dwell with your wife according to knowledge. Like we said before, they are weaker vessels who can easily fall victim to Satan's tricks. Therefore, the husband must be well grounded in this word of truth and must have the gift of discerning of spirit to discern the spirit behind each counsel. You saw the counsel of Delilah. Where lieth thou what? Your strength. I'm your wife. This one you go just enter one city, you pull the whole gate. May I? Is it not good for me to know? And there the conversation started. So we must pray for that discerning of spirit. So that every counsel that is coming, we must know the spirit behind it. Whether it is of God or it is of the devil. Women or men without Christ will always influence their husband or wives to do things not right in the sight of God. If that happens in any matrimonial home, if one of them is influencing the other to do that which is not right in the sight of God, there's going to be constant war or storm in that matrimonial home. Do you know why there's going to be storm and war in that home? Look at Amos 3, chapter 3, verse 3. Amos 3, verse 3.
Amos 3.
Verse 3.
Verse 3. Can 2 walk together except they be agreed?
So there will never be agreement in that home because one maybe is a child of God and the other one not a child of God. Can they agree in such a home? They will never. In conclusion, godly husbands in this spiritual family of Christ are advised to be careful, not to be influenced negatively by their wives, so that they will not incur the anger of God. Let us beware. Let us be watchful. Let us be vigilant. Let us always take the counsel to God, who will not lead us astray. Let us pray. Please, let's stand up to pray. Whether we are married men, married women, or married youth, we have heard what God said to us this morning. We open our mouth and talk to God. That God will help us not to yield to wrong counsel. And that whatsoever the counsel that comes to us, God should help us to always seek His face, to know His mind. And in every situation we find ourselves, God should help us to always seek His mind. Open your mouth and pray. Pray and talk to God, oh. The day Samson met Delilah, if anybody have told Samson that Delilah, the woman he loved, will sell him out, will he agree? We will also pray that we will not be a negative influence to anybody, to make them to stop the work of God, or to take away their God-given assignment. Because there is God's judgment. The Bible says offenses will come. You say, but woe unto that person through whom that offense comes. In Jesus' name we have prayed.